The entire ocean is definitely moving. For more than 10 years, the Cornelia Marie was at the center of the bloodiest catch. It was Captain Phil Harris who brought it fame. Josh and Jake, his sons, have taken it upon themselves to continue his work. But that all changed in August 2022. After 24 years of secrecy, Josh's dark secret was exposed when a long-lost court document came to light online. The terrible nature of the crime. It was promptly deleted from their system by Discovery. All of the programs were pulled from streaming providers practically immediately. Josh ruined his father's hard work and accomplishments by acting irresponsibly as a teenager. Construction of the Cornelia Marie began in 1989 at Bayou Labitra, Alabama's Horton Boats. There had been generations of boat builders in that little village, and this one seemed like the final one. Mary Cornelia was one of Elmo Horton's last major construction projects. It was 128 feet in length and 28 feet in width. With a draft of 7 feet tall and constructed of sturdy steel, it was prepared to face the fierce Bering Sea. Powered by two Cummins QSK-19M diesel engines producing 750 horsepower each, it reached 14.5 knots, offering it a significant advantage in the race to the crab grounds. The tanks could hold up to 28,500. The freshwater supply was sufficient for extended journeys without refueling, with 3,000 gallons available. Prices for the boat started at $2. It cost $5 million to construct, which was a lot of money back then, but it was well worth it because it was one of the most durable boats available. Ralph Collins, the guy who commissioned it, was married to Cornelia Marie, therefore the name. In recognition of Cornelia Marie Collins's contributions to Ralph's life and fishing career, the boat was named after her. Commercial enterprise. Not only was she his wife, but she also worked side by side with him. In a world when ships were typically called after stories or concepts, that moniker made the boat stand out. Cornelia remained a co-owner and had her name maintained on the hull of the boat even after the couple's divorce. The Cornelia Marie was easily recognizable from Kodiak to Dutch Harbor because to her aquamarine and white paint with yellow banners. The Cornelia Marie encountered the most challenging Bering Seas in the outset. Its prey included salmon, herring, king crabs, and opilio crabs. During those brief but intense crab seasons, it would have an advantage due to its large fuel and water supply, which would allow it to remain out longer. In the face of relentless peril, freezing waves, and harsh winds, the first crew included both seasoned sailors and complete novices. When the Big Valley collapsed in 2005, the Cornelia Marie even aided in the hunt for survivors. A solitary man persevered. The boat's reputation for dependability and toughness was solidified during these trials, which occurred long before it gained fame on television. Cornelia Marie was famous among fishermen in the 90s and aughts. Its length was increased by 22 feet after a significant repair, which increased its crab capacity by 100,000 pounds. Because of this, it was able to bring in more than 300,000 pounds in a single voyage. As additional ships capsized in. Through thick and thin, Cornelia Marie persevered. The competence of its crew and the vessel's efficiency earned it renown. Success for the boat was the result of perseverance, good judgment, and ongoing improvements. Features that eventually rendered it ideal for reality television. The tale of the Cornelia Marie included Bill Harris's story. He became a member in the early 90s, then a co-owner, and finally captain in 1998. Tough, demanding, and profoundly loyal, that was Harris. He was there for his workers through good times and bad, treating them like family. For over 2 decades, he was inseparable with the vessel. In the summer of 2017, Harris dropped out of high school, marking the beginning of his adventure. He had been fishing with his dad since he was 8 years old, growing up in Bottle, Washington. Crab fishing was enticed to him by a friend's success. Got a new car after a buddy made over $100,000 in a single season. Harris desired the identical thing while navigating a battered Chevelle. Leaving school, he made his way north. He had a difficult rookie season. He tried to quit and never made any money, but he returned after the captain made fun of him. Harris made $130,000 in a year after finally hitting it big at the age of 19. Harris had full ownership of his Original vessel, the Golden Viking. His own skipper had presented him with the captain's chair as a birthday present. That came with a lot of difficulties, including mounting debt, fixing things, and gaining respect as a young captain. There was a time when he had to pay $50,000 for immediate repairs. Continued effort, however, allowed Harris to establish himself as a top performer on the Bering Sea by the time he was in his mid-20s. Harris was a tough guy who smoked a pack a day and was really concerned for his people, but he was also very commanding. Without ever asking someone to do something he wouldn't do himself, he distributed profits equitably. Years after the first, many of the crew members came back. There were bumps in his personal life. My history includes 2 divorces and a battle with substance misuse. His team, nevertheless, was always his primary priority. The threat wasn't the source of his anxiety. The fact that his workers might return home empty-handed if he claimed it came from crab pots that were actually empty. Much happened on the Cornelia Marie while Harris was in charge. The crab capacity was increased by 100,000 pounds after a significant overhaul that involved cutting it into 4 sections, and adding 22 feet. Involvement of his sons, Josh and Jake, helped him transform the boat into a cherished family heirloom. For Cornelia Marie, 2005 was a watershed year. In Deadliest Catch Season 2, it was one of just 4 boats to be featured permanently. However, it wasn't merely a matter of luck. Difficult decisions needed to be made by the producers. They were picky about which of the more than 250 boats to use. By year's end, they had reduced the field to approximately 89. The Cornelia Marie was notable for its powerful catches and Captain Phil Harris's leadership. Initially, Phil was uncertain. His main concern was that the cameras would be too intrusive and ruin the ship's atmosphere. Conversing was difficult. The Discovery Channel was looking for vessels with character and reliability. Keeping video away from his staff while they were doing risky work was Phil's first priority. In addition, the timing was spot on. In that year, the sport of fishing changed the system for individual fishing quotas from the previous Derby system. This exclusive club was reserved for the best vessels. She was rightfully named the Cornelia Marie. It was a daring decision to bring Josh and Jake, Phil's boys, onto the Cornelia Marie. A decision like this wasn't made by a family. It was like a secret ingredient that the show needed. Phil was quite harsh with them. Along with everyone else, he ensured that they worked tirelessly. People saw what happened. There was stress, there was fighting, and there were times when being a father and a captain were at odds. Viewers will never forget one particular moment. While glancing at Jake, Phil remarked, "You need to go to therapy, man. At least you'll have a fighting shot." The show followed the siblings as they navigated the challenging realm of crab fishing. It also revealed the difficulties they faced when Phil's health started to deteriorate. The death of Phil in 2010 was a devastating blow to his legions of admirers. Joseph made an effort to take the lead. Faced with his inner demons, Jake triumphed. Many were captivated by the roller coaster ride that was the Harris family. We weren't merely spectators. It seemed as if observing actual life. Phil's charisma was one of the main reasons why his audience adored him. "I am thinking," he declared. His humor was genuine and unfiltered. "Now you know why lions eat their young?" Or, "I feel like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest." Wow, his humor really helped him get through those tough moments and made people connect with him. After Phil's stroke and subsequent death, more than 5.4 million viewers were there. According to many, they shed tears for the Harris family. Phil was more than simply a captain. Deadliest Catch revolved around him. Fans continue to share his words on social media. Merchandise featuring his quotes is still sold. The essence endures. The boat was another consideration. The Cornelia Marie stood out from the crowd. Its vivid yellow and blue hues made it stand out. That expression wasn't an act. It made the boat famous. Things like shirts, hats, and model ships were purchased. As soon as they spotted the yacht in port, they shared photos. A positive impression of the Cornelia Marie persisted even after it changed hands or was absent from television. Because of its daring paint job, it became a symbol of perseverance and heritage. It was the Cornelia Marie's crab hauls that brought the ship fame. Its reputation for producing large hauls dates back to its inception. Phil gave the boat and its crew a strong push. Even though 2005 was a rough season, the Cornelia Marie finished in the top. Maritime vessels. Staying ahead of storms and competition required Phil to take chances. Additionally, the boat was helpful. It could transport about 300 tons of crab and measured 128 feet in length. The trips would be longer, and the hauls would be larger. There was more to the boat's record catches than meets the eye. They demonstrated the crew's competence and effort. When it came to Phil Harris, size did not matter. Face the challenge of addiction. The Cornelia Marie's harsh, no-nonsense captain wasn't the only thing he was. People would often see him with a cigarette held between his fingers, and he would occasionally light one from the tip of another. The cameras captured every moment. Everything he owned, including his chain smokers, coffee makers, and Red Bull cases. This toxic combination ravaged his health. Ignoring a pulmonary aneurysm while maritime. Even in 2008, Phil refused to give up. Doctors pleaded with him. His team pleaded with him. His boys pleaded with him. Still, Phil persisted in lighting up. Even after enduring devastating storms, the man was unable to escape his addiction. He was confronted with it in 2010. Phil had a severe stroke while he was only 53 years old. His demise seemed to mark the tragic conclusion of a conflict he rarely engaged in serious conflict. The same heavy burden was carried by his sons, Jake and Josh. The Harris family was cursed with addiction. Even when Josh was just 10 years old, Phil started giving him cigarettes and alcohol. There was an early onset of harm. Seeing Jake spiral in particular was awful. Heroin arrests, DUIs. In 2024, following a high-speed police pursuit, it resulted in a prison sentence of 18 months. Josh did his best to remain resilient, but he too had challenges. Thefts occurred. Relapses did occur. After falling apart, the family tried to put themselves back together multiple times. The true peril was lurking in their own backyard, hidden behind the crab fishing glory. It was still difficult even after acquiring the Cornelia Marie. In 1989, the boat was constructed. The maintenance cost was exorbitant. It was necessary to seek for new financial backers in 2015 merely to replace the engines with two 758 horsepower Cummins diesels. Crew salaries, gas, insurance, and maintenance. It went on forever. It was like a money black hole, according to Josh. This was exacerbated by the pandemic. Wages for the crew increased by a factor of 10. Season after season felt to take a chance. Doomsday might befall with just one poor catch. Hunting golden king crab in deeper, more dangerous seas was one of the major risks that had to be taken in order to survive. The addition of the cameras just served to heighten the already overwhelming sense of pressure. No matter how careful the team was, the show's demands weren't always met. Delaying trips, filming amid storms, and aiming for drama. It has made for entertaining television, but it amplified the risks associated with crab fishing. The boat was even removed from the broadcast on occasion by Discovery Channel. Concerns about legality or public perception, not fishing. As they struggled for survival at sea, the crew also had to meet the expectations of the millions of people watching on television. All of that changed on January 29, 2010. St. Paul's Harbor was the Cornelia Marie's dock. Arcadia, Alaska. Offloading crab was their task. Phil lost consciousness suddenly. A devastating attack. His team wasted little time in launching a distress signal. Medical personnel hurriedly arrived. Each second was crucial. Because of its extreme isolation, St. Paul Island was hundreds of miles from the closest large hospital. They flew him to Anchorage after stabilizing him and arranging for a medevac. His crew and sons watched in disbelief as Phil was airlifted away to battle for his life. It was all caught on film. With each passing second, with each tear, with each anxious radio call. Difficult questions were prompted. Phil couldn't answer yes or no if the world saw such agony. Exploration collaborated with the loved ones. The boys from Harris agreed. Their father had passed away, and they wanted everyone to know the truth. However, The decision continues to evoke unease in modern times. Phil appeared to have a chance to beat the odds at first. His fists were tightly pressed. His voice carried. "Just kidding," he said. It was unbelievable to the doctors. Numerous months are required for the majority of stroke sufferers to match Phil's time in days. Hope began to spread around the globe, but it is a bitter hope. All that changed when a brain bleed occurred suddenly. Phil went into a full-blown collapse. His friends and sons remained at his side. Bidding farewell was the only remaining option. Phil Harris passed away on February 9, 2010, at the age of 53. Half of his ashes were scattered in a gas tank of a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, while the other half was interred with his mother's. Everything else is out at sea. He had ever felt at home beside the water. Redemption Day, the most deadly catch episode of 2010, broadcast on July 20, 2010. 5.4 million individuals tuned in. It quickly rose to the ranks of the show's most popular episodes. Not only did viewers witness the captain's last days, but they also witnessed the suffering of a family, the loss of a crew, and the terrible toll that a life at sea took. Following the demise of Captain Phil Harris Josh and Jake, his boys, were confronted with a devastating and almost impossible responsibility in February of 2010. Though they desired to retain Cornelia Marie in the family, they were unable to do so due to a lack of complete ownership of the vessel and the astronomical expense of purchasing out the other stockholders. To make matters worse, the 1989-built Cornelia Marie also required extensive repairs. No one would lend the brothers money no matter how many times they asked. Fidelities and financiers perceived them as being excessively youthful, unskilled, and dangerous. Then there were the tensions inside the family. Despite their differences, Phil's ex-business partner and the boat's namesake, Cornelia Marie Devlin, had a significant financial interest in the yacht. The talks were rather heated. Josh and Jake battled for years to preserve their father's legacy while simultaneously attempting to establish themselves to their crew, the fishing community, and to an audience of millions. They appeared doomed to fail at every turn. The Cornelia Marie went through a difficult period following Phil's death. And longtime friend of Phil's, Derek Ray, took over as captain for the time being. He was tasked with fulfilling Phil's desire for the boat's narrative to be continued on Deadliest catch. However, tensions became apparent almost immediately under Ray's leadership. The Mourning brothers, particularly Jake, and he had a falling out. Even going so far as to call the police, Ray accused Jake of drug usage while on board in an effort to put him in his place. Members of the staff and fans alike were taken aback by that event. After being united under Phil's leadership, the boat now felt split. The morale plummeted. The crew was on the verge of revolt when Crab Hall was subpar. They held Ray responsible for Crab's disappearance and his severe leadership style. Among the most tragic and agonizing times of Cornelia Marie's life, this was this time. Josh Harris has discovered a way forward after years of struggling. He joined forces with Casey McManus, an old acquaintance who had matured into an accomplished engineer and deckhand. They were able to collect the necessary funds as a group. Josh acquired a 45% stake in Cornelia Marie. Casey acquired 5%. Two outside investors, each with a 25% stake, received the remaining 50%. They were able to overhaul the yacht thanks to this deal. New 750 HP Cummins engines and other significant upgrades were also included. Both men were named co-captains in 2015. Josh provided a vision and a heart. Technical expertise was brought by Casey. They battled occasionally and baffled onlookers. But thanks to their combined efforts, the Cornelia Marie was able to survive and make it back to Deadliest catch. The world was collapsing around Jake as Josh was repairing the boat and planning his future. Even before Phil passed away, his addiction had been apparent. Phil challenged him for stealing medications, and millions of people watched the episode. Jake came clean about his addiction. Following then, things deteriorated further. No sign of Phil. In 2010, Jake was taken into custody for a DUI. Arrests for narcotics possession and vehicle theft recurred in 2017. His 2019 criminal record includes a DUI and an attempt to distribute heroin, law enforcement involvement, license suspension, and additional jail time. A downward spiral ensued. Cornelia Marie and Josh were distant friends of Jake's. Addiction can ruin a life, even in the strongest of families. His story is a tragic reminder of that. Cornelia Marie and Josh's absence from Deadliest Catch Season 13 startled fans in October 2016. The rumors became viral on social media. Josh decided to make things plain by posting a video. No onboard drama was to blame. The reason for this was a choice taken by the manufacturers. During that season, they opted to concentrate on other vessels. Josh expressed his dismay and reassured the audience that the team was prepared to go fishing. The audience was enraged. Until Cornelia Marie returned, many even vowed to stop watching the program. Fans' deep emotional investment in the Harris family and their boat was on full display throughout. Choosing to step down from. It wasn't about Cornelia Marie out that season. The network's goal was to change things up in the plot. They reasoned that after all these years, the show needed new perspectives to pique viewers' interest. However, Josh and the team were irritated by this decision. The show's success or failure depended on their lives and careers. It served as a sobering reminder that the tale was actually dictated by the TV makers. The Harris family endured a severe health problem on top of everything else, regardless of what happened in real life. Several members of the same family ended up in the intensive care unit all at once. Renee Harris suffered a fatal heart attack in July of 2024. After spending a week in the intensive care unit and days on life support, she had a double bypass. On 4 occasions, her heart halted. Other relatives. Individuals coped with a variety of medical crises, including brain hemorrhages and strokes. The strain was unbearable. Forget about fishing or filming. They had to concentrate on survival. They were surrounded by fans who rallied behind them, sending words of support and donations. The passing of Josh's grandpa, Captain Grant Harris, only served to deepen the pain. This was Josh's second devastating loss. The first was Phil. The strain. He was burdened by the weight of living up to the legacy of 2 generations of captains while he faced his own struggles. Josh has been quite candid about his battles with anxiety and depression, but he also says that the tragedies he has experienced have strengthened his resolve. By continuing the Cornelia Marie story, he hoped to pay tribute to his grandfather and father. As the story unfolded, the Deadliest Catch crew evolved into much more than simply camera operators. They grew close to one another. The icy winds, perilous waters, and restless nights were all too familiar to them. They witnessed the triumphs, tragedies, and private moments of the Harris family. Even if they had to keep their distance at very private moments, they were usually there for each other through the cooking, cleaning, and even the fights. Deadliest Catch fans, who had missed the Cornelia Marie, felt a surge of adrenaline when she returned in Season 14. Many spectators were devastated when the yacht went missing in 2017. In honor of Captain Phil Harris, the show's signature blue and yellow hull had taken on symbolic meaning. It was hard to miss the enthusiasm surrounding Discovery's announcement of its comeback for the 2018 season. Posts, memes, and petitions pleading with the network to retain the boat in the lineup went viral on social media. When people tuned in to watch Josh, the ratings skyrocketed. The frozen tundra of Alaska to the warm beaches of Hawaii. What began it all was Josh discovering, in his dad's stateroom on the Cornelia Marie, 50 or 60 antique fishing charts tucked away. Hawaii was depicted on 3 of these maps, each with its own set of peculiar annotations and designated fishing places. Casey and a local fisherman named Jeff Silva were joined by Josh, who was hell-bent on following his father's clues. They worked together to uncover Phil's map's secrets. They weren't merely targeting AI tuna and other large fish, which can fetch $2,000 apiece. They had stumbled onto a long-lost chapter of Phil's biography. Fans saw that Phil's aspirations went beyond crab fishing and bloodline, which combined fishing with a personal journey. Changes in command were becoming apparent as the Cornelia Marie continued to cruise. Even though Casey McManus had only arrived in 2014 as a co-captain, she soon found herself increasingly in command. as Josh dealt with his own. When faced with legal issues, Casey took the lead. By the 14th season, viewers had observed that Casey was running the show and making all the important calls. He ensured the Cornelia Marie's financial stability and efficient operation behind the scenes using his talents. With Josh's responsibilities diminishing, particularly following the revelation of his dark secrets, Casey's leadership became paramount. Casey eventually made the transition onshore and took a position as VP of operations at a prominent maritime firm. His ascent demonstrated how the Cornelia Marie relied on reliable hands in addition to a renowned name. The world around Josh was crumbling. As word of his personal issues spread, his once-loathed fan base was astonished. His reputation took a beating due to his unstable behavior, messy finances, and troubled relationships. When news broke in September 2022 that he had admitted to sexually abusing a woman years before, it was the worst possible blow. Discover moved swiftly. Deadliest Catch and Bloodline were taken off from streaming services, and they severed all relations with Josh. Josh's credibility plummeted in the blink of an eye. Here we see the tragic reality of how celebrity may shatter when confronted with the truth. When previously sealed court documents were made public in August 2022, it was a major revelation. Surprised, the fans were. Hear that Josh, who was 15 years old in 1998, sexually molested the daughter of a family friend when she was 4 years old. The specifics of the situation were terrifying. The little one couldn't have possibly comprehended the gravity of the situation. The next year, charges were finally brought out due to DNA delays. After serving 9 months in prison for a lesser charge in 1999, Josh entered a guilty plea. He was also required to finish a 2-year treatment program. They thought the penalty was too lenient considering the seriousness of the crime. This sinister history was kept secret for over 20 years. Upon learning the truth, supporters felt betrayed and furious, questioning how a crime of this gravity could have gone unnoticed. When word got out, Discovery wasted no time getting to work. By September 2022, Josh and the Cornelia Marie were completely removed from their presentations. The bloodline didn't go through. In the United States, Canada, and elsewhere, older episodes suddenly disappeared from streaming providers. Nothing remained, not even advertisements. There was to be no association between the network and the controversy. Supporters felt conflicted. Though some were pleased by Discovery's quick response, others were sad to see Cornelia Marie go. Even though Casey McManus was completely innocent, she too had to pay the consequence. Casey was also let go by Discovery when they severed relations with Josh. He had no control over the cancellation of his contract or his departure from the show. Supporters thought it was unjust. Despite Casey's long history of respect, he was swept away by the storm. Since then, he's changed careers and is now a tugboat operator. The abrupt termination of his television stint demonstrated how realities may shift at a moment's notice. The television. Cornelia Marie began a new chapter in 2024. Taylor Jensen and a group of partners purchased the boat, as they revealed on June 17th. On the squad were Jake Albanino, Carrie Toya, Roger Thomas, and Jensen. Many were looking forward to seeing new faces take the helm of Cornelia Marie with Albanino's appointment as captain. Though they paid homage to the boat's past, the new owners made it plain that fishing, not stardom, would be their priority. Cornelia Marie had finally broken free of the Harris family's clutches after Phil Harris's passing. A new age had dawned, and with it came the expectation of a future based on toil at sea rather than Hollywood plot twists.